The Galactic Exploration Council had declared Verdantia 7 a red zone planet after the third expedition failed to return. The jungle world had consumed 90% of all explorers who dared enter its emerald depths. Krillians, with their armored exoskeletons, Zephyrites, with their advanced scanning technology, even the telepathic Mindari who could sense danger before it struck. All had vanished into the prehistoric vegetation, their distress beacons going silent within hours. Commander Chak's lore of the Council stood before the assembly, his crystalline features reflecting the holographic display of Verdantia 7's swirling green surface. "This world is beyond our capabilities," he announced, his voice resonating through the chamber. "We must classify it as unsurvivable and move on." That's when Daisy Chen raised her hand from the human delegation section. "With respect, Commander," she said, standing up with a datapad in hand, "I'd like to volunteer for an expedition." The chamber erupted in what could only be described as galactic laughter, clicking mandibles, whistling spiracles, and vibrating thoraxes creating a cacophony of disbelief. "A human," Taxlor's tone dripped with condescension. "Your species has been spacefaring for less than 2 centuries. What makes you think you can survive where our finest have perished?" Daisy smiled. "Because humans are really, really good at surviving places that try to kill us. It's kind of our thing." 3 weeks later, Daisy's transport pod breached Verdantia 7's atmosphere, with her assigned observer, William Torres, beside her. William was a xenobiologist who'd spent the journey trying to convince Daisy to abort the mission. "The venom alone," William muttered, scrolling through the limited data they had, "has killed explorers in under 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Daisy. Then we'll have to not get bitten," Daisy replied cheerfully, checking her pack. Instead of the heavy combat armor previous explorers wore, she carried what looked like camping gear, collection jars, and a worn leather journal. "You brought a notebook?" William stared at her incredulously. "Field guide," she corrected. "If we're going to survive this place, we need to understand it first." The pod touched down in a clearing, and immediately the jungle came alive. Sounds unlike anything in the galactic database filled the air, screeches, howls, and rhythmic drumming that made William's spine tingle. Daisy stepped out, took a deep breath, and grinned. "Smells like the Amazon back home." Come on. What happened over the next 48 hours became the stuff of legend across the galaxy. Where other explorers had fought the jungle, Daisy observed it. When a 6-legged predator with toxin-dripping fangs stalked them, she didn't fire weapons. Instead, she noticed it was limping, tracked it to its den, and found it was protecting injured young. She treated the wound with her medical supplies, leaving food nearby. Within hours, the creature which she dubbed a hexapuma began following them at a distance. "You're befriending the apex predator?" William hissed. "She's a mom protecting her babies," Daisy replied. "I respect that." When they encountered the carnivorous vines that had strangled previous explorers, Daisy didn't hack through them. She noticed they only attacked when threatened, retracting from certain chemical compounds. She collected samples, made notes, and created a simple repellent from local plants. The vines parted like a curtain. William watched in amazement as Daisy filled her journal with sketches, observations, and behavioral notes. She categorized the jungle's dangers not as obstacles, but as ecosystems, understanding predator-prey relationships, symbiotic partnerships, and territorial boundaries. On the second night, as they made camp, William heard rustling. He reached for his plasma rifle, but Daisy put a hand on his arm. "Wait." From the darkness emerged the hexapuma, followed by her cubs. She dropped a dead creature at Daisy's feet, the galactic equivalent of a gift, then settled nearby. "A living security system. She's protecting us now," Daisy whispered, her eyes bright with wonder. "This is insane," William muttered, but he was smiling. By the end of week 1, Daisy had compiled a comprehensive field guide to Verdantia 7. She'd mapped safe routes, identified edible plants, cataloged dangerous species and their behavioral triggers, and even discovered medicinal flora that could counteract most of the jungle's venoms. More remarkably, she'd made friends. The hexapuma, whom she named Duchess, had become a constant companion. A flock of iridescent avians, she called sparklers, followed overhead, their songs warning of approaching storms. Even a colony of insectoid creatures previous explorers had called them swarmers before being devoured, had formed a symbiotic relationship with Daisy after she helped clear parasites from their hive. When Daisy and William emerged from the jungle 8 weeks later, healthy and smiling, the landing zone went silent. Behind them walked Duchess and her cubs. Above them flew a kaleidoscope of sparklers. And in carefully sealed terrariums, Daisy carried specimens of dozens of species, all carefully documented. Commander Thaxlor approached slowly, his crystalline features flickering with confusion. How did you survive? Daisy patted Duchess, who purred like a diesel engine. We didn't try to conquer the jungle, Commander. We tried to understand it. Humans have been doing that for thousands of years on our own death world. We call it natural history. She handed him her field guide, now a thick, leather-bound tome filled with detailed observations, sketches, and practical survival advice. Here, Verdantia 7 isn't unsurvivable. You just have to approach it with respect instead of weapons. William stepped forward, his own datapad glowing with xenobiological data. The jungle doesn't attack without reason. Every species here follows predictable patterns. Daisy figured it out in less than a week. The council meeting that followed was unlike any in galactic history. Daisy presented her findings, demonstrated safe interaction protocols, and even introduced Duchess to the assembly. The hexapuma, sensing her human friend's importance, sat regally beside Daisy's podium like a guardian. Your species is terrifying, Thaxlor admitted finally, though his tone held newfound respect. You turned death worlds into petting zoos. Daisy laughed. We prefer to think of it as making friends. The galaxy's a lot less scary when you understand it. Enter 1. Extant. Within months, Verdantia 7 was reclassified from red zone to accessible territory, with Daisy's field guide becoming mandatory reading for all explorers. Her methodology, observation, respect, and adaptation became the new standard for exploring hostile worlds. And Duchess? She became the first of many Verdantian species to join humans in their journey through the stars. Proof that sometimes the best way to survive isn't to fight nature, but to become part of it. That, the galaxy learned, was the human way.